Time now for another look at the business news, and for that I'm joined here in the studio by Catherine Bennett. Now, Catherine, top of the business stories today is, of course, those drone attacks on Saturday in Saudi Arabia, which have sent the cost of oil skyrocketing.
That's absolutely right. And oil prices have surged more than 10% after the attacks on Saturday. They're up to their highest in 4 months. The strike essentially knocked out half of Saudi Arabia's production. And as Saudi Arabia is the world's top producer, that's wiped almost 6% off the global oil supply. And it could be weeks before oil production is back on track. At the open, international benchmark Brent crude jumped 20% to above $71 a barrel, while the WTI was up as much as 16%. Now, these numbers have pared back during the morning's trading, and we're now seeing an increase of 10% in Brent crude to $66.70 per barrel, and the WTI is up almost 10% to $60.10 the barrel. This easing comes after both Saudi Arabia and the USA said that they would tap into oil reserves to make up the shortfall. This morning, we spoke to analyst Stephen Innes about how governments could react.
We've obviously got other countries that are willing to step up here. You know, Russia could ramp up production. We could see more production coming out of shale. And obviously, the other OPEC countries that have been in full compliance with the OPEC supply cuts could ramp up. We've also got some talk from President Trump willing to dip into the strategic oil reserves that have been in place since the early 70s in the U.S. This has 630 million barrels that they keep in reserve for emergencies such as this. However, we think there's just ample enough supply of oil in the markets to offset.
49,000. That's how many workers at General Motors walked off the job on Sunday after their 4-year contract with the company expired over the weekend. Workers are at odds with the manufacturer over issues such as pay, healthcare and job security. The huge strike will bring US production shuddering to a halt. Here's what one of the workers had to say.
You know, we're very good workers. Minimum wage is going up to $15, and that's where we're capped off at. The price of living is going up, everything except for our paychecks. So this strike is necessary.
Tunisia's struggling economy has been a key topic in this weekend's elections. One industry is bucking the trend, however, and that's tourism. The sector is picking up steam 4 years after terrorist attacks sent tourists looking elsewhere for their holidays in the sun. Eleanor Vanel and Claire Rush have the story.
This summer, cities along Tunisia's coast were packed with tourists who are flocking to the country in growing numbers. Some 4 million tourists have traveled there this year, and an estimated 9 million will have visited by the end of the year.
Demand grows every day. Tour operators are requesting more and more hotel rooms.
This growth comes despite an attack claimed by the Islamic State group in June, which killed a police officer in the capital, Tunis. Such attacks have harmed Tunisia's tourism industry in the past. In March 2015, 22 people, mostly foreigners, were killed at the Bardo Museum in Tunis. 3 months later, in June, 38 tourists were shot and killed on a beach. That year saw the number of visitors to the country drop by nearly a quarter, in a blow to the sector and its employees. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, tourism indirectly generated 464,000 jobs in 2017, accounting for 13% of total employment. To lure visitors back, the country has aimed to tighten security.
I feel like Tunisia is making a lot of effort to make us tourists feel safe.
The tourism bounce back, however, won't be able to solve the country's economic woes. The prevalence of all-inclusive budget resorts means many visitors spend all their time and money at their hotel and not in the local economy.
Now let's turn to take a look at the markets. Analysts are worried, of course, that this drop in oil supply and a hike in prices could lead to a global recession. Asia markets are mixed today as a result. Chinese stocks are mostly positive and the Kospi has risen almost 0.5%. But the Hang Seng Index has slipped over 1%. The Nikkei is closed for a public holiday. Purdue Pharma, the pharmaceutical company at the root of the United States opioid crisis, has filed for bankruptcy. The maker of the painkiller OxyContin is currently at the centre of 2,600 lawsuits. The company has already reached a tentative deal worth up to $12 billion with a number of state and local governments. Purdue and its controlling Sackler family deny the allegations that they fueled an epidemic that has killed nearly 400,000 people over the past 2 decades. 26 central banks, including the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve, are meeting officials from Facebook today to discuss its digital currency, Libra. Regulators have warned that Libra is going to have to jump through some serious hoops in order to be approved. Governments are worried that the cryptocurrency could upend the financial system. Facebook, for its part, seems fairly relaxed. The company said that it has planned a long launch in order to give it time to iron out those problems with regulators. And I know that France, at least, is definitely very much against Libra.
Catherine Bennett with the latest business news. Thank you very much for that update.